Well, hello there everybody, this is a True Nerd here, and we are continuing our little build-a-thon with the robot. So it's been a little while, but I did take the liberty of soldering together the power supply. So with the battery, 7.4 volt 2-cell battery, connected with the JST socket to the switch, to the connector, or to the converter, to the DC converter, switching converter. Now we've got ourselves a thing going here. Now it's just a piece of shit I put together. This is basically a a terminal strip here. I put black stripes where the ground are, and so I can plug multiple things in here at 5 volts. Yeah, that is about it. We can turn it on. And Viola, the motor supply turns on. Everything seems to be in working order. Yeah, so this will be the power center of our robot. This will supply the 5 volts. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna run the motors off of it. Although I could bring this and run it directly off of the battery, and that would be if I didn't have a high amperage converter. That would be ideal, because we're going to be running motors off of it and stuff like that. So, but other than that, that's the basic gist of what's going on here. So what should we do? We should look at, let's move this out of the way. Oh, let's turn it off. So I have taken the liberty of soldering the connectors to the motors. Now I put them in the same place, top, bottom, so it should result in a similar rotation when I power it on. So I'm going to turn on my power here. I'm going to turn it to 5 volts. That'll give me an idea of how much jam we got going on here. So I'm going to hook this up like so. Let's see. There we go. It's a little bit out of, out of whack. That's normal for these. That's at full juice. That's 5 volts, and right now it is taking about 250 milliamps when I lock it down. So it's good to know these things. It takes about 1.2 amps. That's critical to know. Generally speaking, you're not going to actually stop it. Even if it hits a wall, it's going to spin out. But it is good to know. Yeah, so about 1.2 amps. I can see it on my power supply. At full 100% voltage at 5 volts, it draws about 1.2 amps. Let's just put this guy on here. Let's see what happens. Let's turn my power supply off. I'm going to go like so, because I'm going to be a happy guy. And let's go like this. Let's go like so. Okay. And we are golden. And power on. So positive to positive, negative to negative, and they run, well, they actually run in opposing ways, but they will move the craft, well, forward in this case. Remember, I have decided that this is the rear, this will be the front. So, there we go. Now what I have to do is I have to get the hot snot gun going, and we are going to put stuff on the inside of this little juicy guy. Okay, so we can see that my hot glue gun is ready now, as we can see with a little curly glue coming out. I was going to use this is my low temperature glue gun. Woodland Scenics. Works fairly well. It's worked. This guy's worked for me for many years. Takes low temperature foam glue sticks. Not a big deal. Anyways, I was going to use my higher temperature one, but the cord is about a 1/4 inch long, so it's kind of hard to get to over here where my plugins are approximately 2 feet away. Literally, like, the cord I think is maybe a foot long. So we will do some gluing. Now the thing is, I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to be a real stickler. I'm going to keep everything together so I know that it will fit, that it will all connect. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to move him right here. I can still access them, and the wires can come up through here, and I'm going to put them back. So I'm going to just put a big, ugly glob of shit here. Big ugly globs. And you have to remember, you have to be quick. Let's try to keep her a little bit straight while she cools. And the thing about hot glue guns, I mean, you get this stringy shit everywhere. There is a way around it, I'm sure, but I don't know it. So, remember the battery has to go here somewhere. So I'll worry about that later. Yeah, because that's where, okay, so it'll go there. I'm going to put a little bracer. I'm going to get some, what do you call it? Some Velcro. I'm going to stick it there with Velcro. So I'm not going to glue the battery down, that's for fuck sure. But I am going to glue down the terminal strip. Okay, let's take this off. Like so. Let's give it a good heaping helping of junk so it sticks. I'm going to face it towards the outside so that it's accessible. It may not necessarily stick as well as one would hope, because it is just sitting on smooth plastic. So that is something to consider. Sometimes what I do is I actually use popsicle sticks and I put them underneath. But for now, I don't really have to worry too much about that. I'm go like this. I'm going to take this off actually. I'm going to go. Let's see here. I don't want the wire to get in the way. I might just tie down the wire. I think that might be an ideal position. Do I want to block off the encoder zone? You know what? No, I don't. So I'm going to put it over here. So we're going to go like so. And remember, this shit can peel off pretty easily. You'd be surprised. Looks like I'm putting, you know, an indescribable amount of glue on here. And I am, but I might tie down the opposite side here. Go like this. I'm going to put the switch just off to the right so that's accessible from the front. A big heavy honking stick here. Okay. Not fully cooled, but we got little stringies everywhere. Okay. So that's kind of cooled off. We got this guy. That's fine. I left that open. This is the switch. That's accessible. I'm going to put a little bit of barricade up here when everything's said and done. Let's connect the battery. Why not? Also, I'm going to put a little bit of hot snot right here. Well, why are you doing that? Well, no, keep that black wire out of the way from hitting the wheel when everything's moving. So I gotta hold this for a moment because that glue does take a bit of time to cool. When it turns this kind of opaque color, then you know it's good. You know you're golden. But otherwise, it doesn't even burn me. It's that low a temperature. So, you know, the one thing you have to remember, sitting out in the hot sun can melt this stuff. That is something to keep in mind. So if you're gonna have shit running around in the hot sun all day, don't use this glue. Like I said, I was gonna use the other glue, but the gun I have here, the cord's way too short, and I couldn't find my little extension cord, so I guess it's an indoor guy. Let's turn it on. Yeah. Okay. So like that. Where have the flowers gone? Let's see, does that screw in tighter? Yes. Does that screw in tighter? So we're pretty good in terms of, well, that's a weird screw. That jam's full of shit. It's not a very nice screw. So I'm going to run these up through here because I can. And like I said, I'm going to put a guard up front to protect all these wires and shit. And you know, don't be afraid to use zip ties and stuff to to collect all your wires. That's not a big deal. Putting a big zip tie there is not the end of the universe. Let's see if we can get a little closer. So now we're, you know, let's put that in frame. Here we are, this ugly mess. And we have a battery there. I don't like this because it's sitting on the bolts. So I'm going to have to pad that up a bit later. And I will have to put Velcro there. Just a bit. It doesn't need a lot. But, you know, and then you can kind of fuck around with your wires and make sure that they sit inside. So let's do that. Let's get the white motor connected first though. So I have these little, I do have a screwdriver. I'm a lucky boy. So I'm going to just put them on the thingamajigger like so. I'm going to go twist this thing. A lot of times, you know, you don't want to, this is something to remember, when you're using terminals, you do not want to solder the tips of the wires that you put in there. You want them to get crushed flat. You know why? Well, because when you solder them, the wires become hard, of course, right? And they become nice and easy to insert. And, you know, that seems like a good thing. I mean, it feels nice and firm and whatever, but you wiggle them a bit and they will come loose. Sometimes they won't come loose because there's, you know, a big glob of solder on them. However, what you have is a loose connection. So you are almost always better off just twisting, just giving a bit of a twist, but leaving them unsoldered. Do not tin the ends. You will, and this is a very important, especially when you're putting machines together or whatnot. Do not tin the ends. There are some terminals that you can get away with, like a clamp down terminal, where it goes all the way around, and you can be fairly certain that it's clamped all the way around the thing. Well, you might be okay, but with a wire to board terminal, just keep that in mind. Let's open that up. Pardon the cut on my hand, I didn't even realize. That must be awful. I cut my hand today. It's a good juicy. It looks like something that I tried to clean it, so it's got bloody again. I'll try to keep that hand out of view. Try to, at least. Okay. Look at this big bundle of shit. That's okay. We will tuck it away. And let's see if we can't. Let's go like this. Let's see if I can't get a motor running. So I'm going to use a connector. Let me put it on the end here. Now I have ground, and I have. Actually, I'm just going to connect it directly to the thing here. Let's see what happens. I'm going to maybe put this up on something. Let's go like this. Or up on a little wire. No, that's no good. Oh boy. Always a difficulty. Always difficulties. Pardon me. Alright, the rest of this little bale of wire, or of solder. It's not ideal, but that'll do. Let's do that. Okay, so I got those connected. Let's see what happens when I go like so. Let's reverse it. Nice. So it does work. The motor works. Let's try this one here. Let's try the other side. This isn't exactly an ideal way to test it. I should test it with a microcontroller. Let's see. Neat. Yeah, so I believe one of them is direction. Oh no, this is for a stepper motor, so it doesn't matter. But we're good, we're golden. So what we can do, I guess it was hard, you didn't really get to see it, unfortunately. But anyways, we did get the motors rotating. They do rotate back and forth. It's running off of battery power. Yeah, so we have the very start of a robot. So maybe I should put the plate back on. Hang on, I'm gonna shut off my thing here, my goop gun. It is hot enough to burn you a little bit, but realistically, not. It hurts a little bit to touch the hot glue, or even the tip, but it's barely there. Okay, so I will need to get some, let me think here, I need what do I need? Well, I need obviously something to attach this down with, and we are going to put the top plate on. So, let's see here, which way does this go? This goes like so. So we're going to press this down a little bit. We can open this back up when we need it. But for now, we're going to leave it as is. And I will connect, here you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to take another pair of connectors, because I will need them. I'm going to connect them to the motor output here. That. So I've got one wire coming out here. This is going. That is going to. Let's see here. What are the connectors here? I forget what they're labeled. Okay, A1A, A1B. And then, see, I can barely read them, but let's do that. Another couple of headers. So these will be responsible for, these will go to the MCU, and they will be controlling the direction and the pulse width modulation of the motors. So there we go. Better take that away. Actually, something interesting to note. This is my very first, I still haven't used it all up, my very first roll of solder. Actually, you know what, I'm wrong. Actually, yeah. Well, not my first roll, but you can see, doesn't have a year. That's when they first started going to the Next Tech brand. They still had Radio Shacks. So that's all tied down. Let's turn that off. Let's go like so. We're going to put this through the top plate. So I'm going to put it through the holes. And we're going to say that that is sufficient. Let me put this in frame. I apologize to everybody who gets to see my gored up little hand here. It's not the worst cut in the world, but it's not a nice looking thing. But whatever. It is what it is. Okay, so we are golden. Here's the power switch right at the front. Obviously it does nothing yet. I mean, maybe we can connect together. I don't think that'll work. No. But there we go. We have the beginnings of a robot. So we have the power. We could move this guy around. He can do whatever he wants. We could put a basic board up here right now. I have one of these. Guys, I know you can't see it through the plastic very well, but I can put a Arduino Nano on there, and then use the shield ports, and or you can use a little breadboard. Here's a little breadboard. This isn't big enough, but something like that. This is an this is a real-time clock. That might be handy. That's a temperature and humidity sensor. We got all kinds of things we can do. The world is our oyster when it comes to building a robot. So I'm just building one that I just kind of feel like building. But you know what? When you guys build one, whoever watches this, could be no one. Build whatever you want. Put it together. You know, don't follow my example. My example is usually the wrong one. So, you know, you could probably maybe make this a little nicer. I'm kind of known for my sloppiness, but you know, you could put this together. You know, make a nice guard. But I'd like to get the power system done first. I think that's probably the most important part. Because if you don't have power and you don't have motors, you don't have a robot. You have a sensor grid or something. So anyways, this has been a true nerd here, and we've been building a robot. You guys have a good day. Oh, let's put that in frame. You guys have a good day or night or whatever it happens to be, and remember to keep on building. Good night.